Well, the easiest way to say it is that usually the units you can't get into are the ones with the biggest problems.
From my point, I've had Class B and I've had Class C, and Class C turnover is always higher than a Class B turnover. Class B is kind of in the middle. Um, Class B, it's normally your working people, working class who are proud of their job, proud of where they live, proud of their cars, stuff like that, and so they take care of things a whole lot better. There's a big difference between Class C and B and the resident type, and then their mentality on caring for their unit, calling in for work orders and stuff like that. So, welcome to the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast, where precision meets performance in commercial real estate. I'm your host, Jason Williams, and every week we deep dive into the strategies and systems and stories behind rock solid underwriting. Whether you're a seasoned analyst, an up-and-coming investor, or a commercial real estate professional looking to sharpen your edge, this show is your front row seat to expert insights, emerging trends, and real-world underwriting tactics that stand the test of time and scrutiny. From market assumptions to debt structuring, cap rates to cash flow, we're cutting through the noise and getting to the numbers that matter. So sharpen your pencils and fire up those models. Let's get to work. This is Ironclad Underwriting. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Williams, and I got my good friend, business partner, co-host, Frank Patalano. How are you doing, Frank?
Good, sir. Excited about the brief discussion of what we have coming up.
Yeah, did you have good holidays? Right now, this should be coming out in January of 26, just for to give people a timeline so that they understand. So,
No complaints for me. It's good to be home for the holidays. It's good to be planning future travel, including hanging out with you guys.
well, yeah, we got BEC coming up next month, like 6 weeks away. I'm super excited about that. Maybe we'll talk about that in a later episode. Maybe not because I don't know. We have building up a backlog, so we don't know when the episodes will air. Well, anyway, um, one of our properties has some issues, um, vacancy issues, and a lot of times when you're modeling vacancy, you just kind of like put in, let's just put in maybe 5%, 10% vacancy, whatever. And then you model that and then you go in and like, okay, that looks good. But then what you're like overlooking are like the real costs of vacancy. It's like, what does it actually cost you to have an empty unit, rather than just say, all right, the blanket 5% or 10% or whatever. It's like, no, this is what is it taking out of your pocket to have that unit empty. So, and this might turn out to be a multi-series topic or a multi-episode topic. So this is number one if we do. So, ready to jump in?
Absolutely.
All right. So I think one of the biggest costs that's misrepresented or maybe underappreciated is turnover costs. Okay. Now, if you're underwriting multifamily, large multifamily, you might say, all right, well, turnover, we're going to assume 200 a unit or 300 a unit. What exactly does that mean? What does it mean to you, Frank, to do that?
I mean, that's kind of like the average across all the units, and it's just a starting number. I would say that hopefully, if you have an abundance of vacant units, you're gonna blow that out of the water.
Also, if you have an abundant of like leases that are expiring, you can blow that out of the water as well. Um, because really, yeah, what it is an average for all the units for for whatever the month. So if you have 100, say $200 a unit per month, okay. If you have 10 units that don't do it, then you can potentially have one unit that's 2,000, right? Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yep.
Um, so that it averages to 200. But like we said, if you have a bunch of leases that's expiring and they don't like the new management or whatever, if you just get an acquisition, or maybe they don't like something going on, you get a bunch of people just leaving all of a sudden, that turnover cost can turn from an average of 200 up to 2,000 pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of some of the basic turnover costs, I mean, just the concept of appliances. If you need to get new appliances, you might as well throw that $200 out the window, obviously, because you're talking $2,000 for the average appliance package, depending on what you got in it. If you have a washer dryer in there sometimes as well, or a microwave.
Also, well, depending on how you budgeted, appliances could be capex or could be operating expenses, repairing or replacing. And we've gotten into some of that in the past episodes. But if you're looking at, say, like a full repaint of the full unit, so maybe somebody was smoking or something, and your white paint now looks like a dingy yellow, and it's kind of gross and smells. Even though they weren't supposed to smoke in the unit, they did because people don't always follow their lease to the letter. So you're painting the whole unit. Maybe that's going to be like $800. If there's carpet, that carpet's going to be absorbing that smell. If they have pets, that carpet could have pet smell in it, urine and feces and stuff. I think we've both seen units like that where people leave a dog in the apartment all day long and then maybe take it out when they get home, but they just like use the apartment for a bathroom while they're gone. And actually sometimes it gets really bad where you have to like tear up the carpet or even the hardwood floor or LVP, and then you have to tear up the subfloor as well, and then that gets costly.
That's pricey.
You and I have both seen units where that has had to happen before, and
Oh,
it's
absolutely. Too
I
many.
hate I hate walking into those units because you can feel it before you even step in. You just get a blast of grossness.
Oh, the
So
smell definitely kills you. I was just thinking of the sponginess of the floor that drives me nuts too.
yeah. So
But
you
yeah.
go on. No,
So I mean, one of the things I was thinking is when you think of a vacancy, what's the shortest amount of possible time that's going to cost you to get something done? Especially, I mean, we're not talking about like a triplex. We're talking about something commercial where you have teams, you have people that need to walk the units. So first, on one day, the people leave. That might take 2 days before someone can even look at it, and then they're going to rate what level of upgrade it needs. Is it just something that, oh, this place looks amazing. We just remodeled it last month or last time. That doesn't mean it normally happens. And we can get this rented starting next week. Well, then you got to retake pictures sometimes. If somebody needs to work on it, you might bring somebody in. It might take them a few days to get there. It might take them time, like you said, to paint. And then the next step, it's like, okay, now we need new pictures. And now we need to post those and get people to see it. And then we have to have people do open houses. And then we have to have applications filled out. And then we need to review the applications. And then if they agree, they need to bring in a security deposit and sign the lease. But they might be living somewhere else and they might have to give 30 days notice, or at least you hope they do because you'd want it on your end.
Yeah.
So it could easily take a month in no time, if not longer, to fill a unit.
Yeah. And that's if you just have like one unit. If you have, say, three units, three people leave all at the same time, either you're bringing in more help or I'm assuming your on-site staff can't do three at one time. Maybe if it's a large enough property and you have enough maintenance men, you can do three at one time. But if you have like 100 unit property, you probably only have one maintenance man, maybe one and a half. And what normally would take maybe 3 to 5 business days for a turn, basically a week, now takes 3 weeks because you have three units. And they're always going to do the easy one first, low hanging fruit. So
Well, I
if you
mean,
have
as an operator, you'd want them to do that as well, most of the time.
most of the time, but what ends up happening a lot of times is you have 3 units this month, 4 units this month. So it takes 4 weeks to get to it, right? So you're already into the next month, and you have another one that's an easy turn. So your big heavy turn now gets pushed again another month.
Yeah. What do you mean we have a vacancy for 9 weeks? What's going on? Yeah, I know what you said.
No, we've had vacancy for 9 months because it just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed.
Well, there was also some other extenuating circumstances, I think, on some of those sometimes.
Yeah, but it was a heavy lift, and so it's like it's actually on our good property that we had a
Uh,
vacancy for that long. Remember?
I'm thinking sometimes, have I seen 9 months before? Yes. Have I seen 6 months before? Yes. What kills me sometimes is when you have a bug infestation that needs to be treated, needs to be worked through, needs to be retreated. So those kind of units can definitely have problems too.
Yeah, those are their own case. I wasn't getting
That's
into
what I
that
thought
one
you were
yet,
talking about.
but yeah, that those kind where it's like your pest treatment comes in maybe every 2 weeks, maybe every 4 weeks, and they have to kill the problem, and then they have to wait another 2 weeks or 4 weeks to make sure that the problem is killed and there's nothing coming back. So you're already maybe what 8, 12 weeks in, and you haven't even done anything except just pay pest control, which is another fee that you can put onto that turnover cost. And then you're what 12 weeks, 3 months of rent without rent. So what's that? Maybe $1,000 a month, so $3,000 right there that you're missing. And then once you get the problem solved and it didn't actually spread to any other units, then you can start doing the rehab. Now you might have tore out the floor already if it was a bad floor, and but you're also a lot of times when you're killing bugs, you're destroying the walls. You're poking holes in the walls because you're trying to get the chemicals in there. So you're actually adding more damage to the unit that your maintenance men or your make ready team has to fix after the fact. So I mean, it's not just all right. I'm going to spray. It's like no, they punch holes in the walls, fill up the walls with some foam or something to kill the bugs, and they'll fog and it gets messy really fast.
So would you agree that, I mean, when we think about turnovers, turnovers are going to happen, but it's kind of like one of the worst and most expensive things that happen for you. It's those transitions, right?
Yeah. When somebody is sitting or somebody's residing in a unit, they're not going to tell you about all the issues they're having because they learn to live with them, right? Unless it's like a really bad water leak or something, they're not going to tell you if it's leaking under the sink. They just deal with it. Maybe they put a bucket under there and it overflows, but after a while, that sink begins to deteriorate and rot, or underneath the sink that begins to deteriorate and rot, and that people just learn to live with it. Or if it gets too bad, then they leave. It's like, well, this guy's not going to fix it. Of course, they never turned in a work order, so nobody really knows about it until they go in and inspect it after they leave. And so you find a lot of these issues, these I guess, um, my mind just went blank. All the issues that nobody was reporting all at once, and so that makes these turnovers a heavier
Yeah.
lift. So
And you see that more especially on C-class properties. The property that we just sold, when we did walkthrough inspections, let's just say I was not too happy. It's like, what do you mean there's mold literally in the bathroom? And the tenants were too nervous to put a work order in. It was
so
it was crazy.
in Texas, marijuana is illegal. It's not can't no medicinal use or anything. And a lot of times when we're walking a unit after someone moves out, all you can smell is that smell. So when they're living there, they don't want maintenance coming in and fixing anything because they know they're breaking their lease and they'll get kicked out. And so they would rather
Gotcha.
leave on their own terms. And so a lot of times when they don't report something, it's because they don't want the staff inside their unit. You know,
Understandable.
if you have a good property management company who goes in and maybe changes air filters every month, that's sort of like a little time to do an inspection just to make sure that everything's copacetic with the resident and their leases and stuff. So, but in Oklahoma, it is legal, and I walked a property there, and just about every single unit had that smell. Of course, it was legal, but I walked into one unit, and that guy had like 20 fans, oscillating fans, just blowing all around. It's like the AC wasn't working. It's like, well, why didn't you make a work order? Why didn't you tell him He's like, well, I didn't want to bother them. It's like, okay, you can fix an AC and live comfortably, or you can buy $20 fans and have 20 of them just blowing air around your house. It's like, or units. It's like, it's going to
I
do
mean, every property is different, but especially if he's paying the electric, versus usually if it's a system, it's built into the.
like all bills paid or rubs or something where you get to spread the costs out over everybody.
Yeah.
Of course, going that route, I knew a guy, and this is sort of an aside, who lived in an all bills paid property, and he opened up his oven, and turned it on, and he'd crank his AC down to like 50. He'd turn on all the burners on his stove.
He was purposely trying to ruin the bills.
Yeah, he'd just do it because he wasn't paying for it.
I mean, if you want to, I could tell stories after story about that. We had one person that was on vacation in a quad, and he went away for 2 weeks. And this is I'm up in Rhode Island, so it gets cold. The the sewer pipe froze or got stuck on the side of the building, and it was going everywhere. And we had to go into his unit at 90 degrees, even though he was away for 2 weeks because he wasn't paying for the heat. And the water tripped off the fire alarm. Yeah, it was a disaster.
Wow. So, and that brings us to another point. Um, Turnover costs between, say, a class C or a class B or a class A, I think are significantly different.
No, I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
From my point, I've had class B and I've had class C, and class C turnover is always higher than a class B turnover. What is your experience?
I don't know if I've really looked at the numbers too much. At first glance, I was thinking that if Class B or if Class A needs a full turnover, the full turnover will be more expensive. But at first glance, I think that Class C, the turnovers are rougher. So there is a cost to them. It's just, I think on the Class C, there's your turnovers, having a turnover expense being a full turn is much more likely.
Right. Um, Now with class A, you do get your weird people who like destroy units, but and I've never had a class A. I've talked with many people who do, and a lot of times class A units, the residents who rent there expect a whole lot more.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I was thinking
And
that,
so they report everything. They report a drip from the sink. They report light bulbs going out. And so there's a lot less deferred maintenance when it comes time to do a turn for the
right. But what
class
I
A.
was thinking about with that too is that if you do need to do like that real full turn, it's going to be very expensive.
Right. But the likelihood of that happening
Is
is
low.
significantly lower.
Absolutely.
Class B is kind of in the middle. Um, Class B, it's normally your working people, working class who are proud of their job, proud of where they live, proud of their cars, stuff like that, and so they take care of things a whole lot better. Class C, from what I've seen, it's like sometimes it's just like students who don't really care. Maybe their parents are paying for stuff, and so they just neglect everything. Or sometimes it's just people who are scraping by and don't really want to cause problems. I mean, so there's a big difference between Class C and B in the resident type, and then their mentality on caring for their unit, calling in for work orders and stuff like that. So, um, and then that brings us to another point, and it goes back to our due diligence episode we did a few episodes back. Is when you walk a property, when you're buying a property, you want to walk every single unit. You want to go through, you want to be able to see what is the issue in it so that you can accurately predict what the turnover cost would be for them.
Well, the easiest way to say it is that usually the units you can't get into are the ones with the biggest problems
Yeah.
on
So may,
average.
so maybe you have to assume like a full turn on some of those. Now, granted, a full turn could potentially be counted as capex rather than turnover costs, but um
Either way, it's
it's
still a cost up front as you're turning
yeah,
this.
you still have to understand, and it is still a cost of the turnover. So Um, so one thing that a good question to ask sponsors if you're investing is or even your property management company who's going to be taking over is like, what's the biggest or the worst turn that you've ever seen and had to do, and how did you do it, and what was actually done, and then what did it actually cost. So and then they'll tell you all the war stories they hear where they had to go in and tear up the floor, not just the subfloor and flooring, but maybe even the floor itself so that you could peek up from the unit below because of bad things. um I walked one unit, or actually I didn't walk the unit because they wouldn't let me in the unit. I walked the unit below it, but there was a dead person that wasn't found for a couple weeks in one unit, and it was an upstairs unit. And the body is what, like 90 something percent water, and eventually that water will leave, and so it like seep through a couch, seep through the carpet, seep through the subfloor, seep through the ceiling of the unit below, and that was kind of gross. That was on that one property that keeps coming up that's over by the base.
Oh yeah, I don't want to discuss some of the different dead body situations I've had to say. So.
um I think the majority of the worst turns I've seen are related to pets, though, where pets destroyed the flooring and subflooring, and so all that needs to be replaced. That's happened more than I would like to admit. So if you allow pets, make sure you have a pet rent and a pet fee to handle some of those costs. So
Yeah, the pet
um,
rent, the most important part about that is pet rent is not free money. Pet
yeah,
rent is you banking future repairs that pets cost.
yeah. And then you have to ask, it's like, at what point is it better just to do a turn or just a full renovation? At what point do you turn it from operating expense to capex, basically? So if you're doing flooring, subflooring, that would probably be capex. If you're just painting would be operating expense. If you're resurfacing your your cabinet, or not your cabinets, but your countertops or your tubs, those would be operating expense. If you're replacing the countertops or replacing the tubs, that would be capex. And so that goes into, I guess, part renovation versus turn. What else, Frank?
I mean, I was just thinking about the difference between a light turn versus a real heavy turn. I mean, I've seen heavy turns that have cost $15,000, $20,000, like it's nothing. But we're talking, completely new kitchen, completely new bathroom, new appliances, maybe putting in some new flooring. I mean, they're real heavy turns, and you need to do them sometimes, especially if you have a classic unit. Um, and it's just I've had floors that are already gone through five sets of tenants. It's like now they need brand new floors in this.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention between the class A, B, and C is, from my experience, your class B residents live at their unit longer. They might renew their lease year after year. And so you might have 20-year residents, right?
Absolutely.
And a class
I mean, look
C,
at on single family homes. I mean, I know it's not necessarily where we're going here, but we had one family live with us for 28 years.
yeah,
My mother was complaining because we did a $40,000 upgrade to the house. It's like they basically just paid a whole mortgage for you, you know?
yeah. Yeah, so your higher class residents typically stay longer, but in your C class or even D, they might sign a year lease and then leave after 9 months and not even tell anybody. They just skip for no reason, or maybe they lost their job, or they move in with somebody else, move in with a girlfriend or boyfriend, and so they just leave. Every time somebody leaves, it's a turn. So sometimes they don't even tell you they leave, and you don't even know if the unit's empty until rent hasn't been coming in for a couple months. So
If you
Um,
have a good property manager. If not, it might take even longer to figure it out.
yeah, but yeah, typically I think the longevity of people staying on a C class, I would almost say it's maybe 13 months on average. Or would you say it's less than a year? I think the average is probably a little over a year, which is why I said 13 months.
Yeah, I think there's different even Class C, there's a wide range of Class C and markets affect that as well for averages. Um, so with that being said, talk about the real cost of vacancy. I mean, we're underwriting all the time. You're doing underwriting. How does this affect how someone should plan the underwriting?
So again, first thing, oh, first thing you do is you just estimate a cost, an average cost. But as soon as you walk every unit, as soon as you're under contract, you need to revamp that number. You have to have a number in there to begin with. That's when you can use your rule of thumb number, your 250 or whatever per unit per month. But as soon as you do that, as soon as you walk your property, you might be changing that up to say 400 or 500 on average, depending on the quality. I mean, you might have a property that's immaculate and turnover cost is like minimal. So I mean, that's another reason why you need to walk it. So um, and also, and I've only seen this like a handful of times, but whenever your due diligence team walks property, I've gotten a list of every single thing that needs to be replaced in every single unit. I've broken it down and they've broken it down into like how many need kitchens, how many need bathrooms, stuff like that. But then they also say, all right, this unit needs a kitchen, a bathroom, it needs handles on all the cabinetry, it needs a paint job, it needs carpet, or it needs LVP. I mean, it's a huge cross-referenced like database type thing, and
Jason,
those
you're
are the
saying you just
best.
don't want a back of a napkin with a number on it, like 38,000, $25 or something?
No, you can do that. But again, it's only as good as the amount of work you put in. So I mean, if you're just you walk a unit and also experience comes. I mean, you and I get to a point where we can walk into a unit and walk out and say, all right, we're thinking this needs 4,500 to 5,000. Um, but if you don't know that, then when you get the itemized list, it's a whole lot easier to figure it out. And those itemized lists, they might not be exact, but at least it tells you what you need, and then you can figure out the pricing from what you need rather than the pricing that they give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how in most markets, when you think about vacancy, it's like what number to use as a rule. I know like in some of these hot markets, like Boston or Atlanta or something like that, they might be at sub 4% vacancy. But there are certain markets, and we've talked about a few of them, Amarillo, Texas, and stuff like that, where 10% vacancy is pretty normal,
Yeah.
and it might even be a little low.
So if you don't, I mean, you want to plan your vacancy, your underwriting vacancy based on like your market conditions, and maybe hopefully be better than the market conditions. You want people to come to your property rather than just be like the average. Um, so it all comes down to your business plan, how you plan on marketing, how you plan on getting leases and stuff like that. Because I mean, if you plan for a 5% vacancy and you're sitting at 15%, you're never going to make your numbers. If you plan for 15 and you're sitting at 5, then you're doing pretty well.
Gravy.
If you can actually plan for 15 and your numbers still make sense, that's probably a pretty good deal that I would say. Most of the time you're going to have to adjust your numbers, and a lot of people that I see is like, well, we made it 7.5% vacancy just because we don't believe we can get 5, and if we're at 10 it killed the deal. It's like, all right, well, so you're hoping for something. It's currently at 10% vacancy and you're hoping to bring it up some, but what's the chances of that happening? So I mean, there's a lot of nuances to it, so I can't just give you a blanket statement on how to do it.
Oh, definitely. There's different markets, there's different conditions, there's different time frames. I mean, there's been, we're not talking '08 right now for most markets. I just remember when I had tenants that would come in and negotiate the rents back in 2012 because we're at the bottom. And you know what? I took a negotiated rent. It's like if I drop it $25 and that's going to move them in, that's 12 months of rent versus me having to wait maybe another month to move someone in. And the cost of 25 times 12 is what, $300?
So $300 versus losing what, 1,200?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I've never had to negotiate rent, luckily. And on my single families, I get people. I mean, they're all full right now, and people pay them, luckily. But also single families, um, that's a whole other ball game because a turnover there. If you have someone moving in like a year or two, or stay for a year or two and then leave, a turnover can wipe out all profit you got on that. So
Heck yeah.
You have to plan those better. The more you have, the easier it gets. It's just numbers, economies of scale. But if you only have one single family, yeah, it's very easy to wipe out all your profit in one turnover. So, any other things you can think of?
No,
So
not necessarily.
and I know we talked about it briefly. It's like a turnover should not take that long. Usually what happens is getting to do that turnover. Like on those ones that we had for like 9 months, they just never got to it to be able to turn it. Once they got to it, they were able to turn it within a week. So, but yeah, that's how turnovers can affect the cost of vacancy. So
Can make or break your deal.
yeah, and again, single families, they typically break a deal, so you have to be able to weather those storms. So. Oh, another thing, the better your property management company and the better they screen their residents, the lower your turnover costs are going to be. Do you agree with that?
Say it again.
If the better your property management screens your residents, the lower your turnover costs will be.
On average, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that pays to screen future residents. Yeah, you might say, well, no, it costs too much to run this application and everything. It costs $45 every time somebody does it. It's like, well, guess what? $45 can save you 4,500 very easily. So.
And not only just save you 4,500, but I've always had the philosophy that, and every market's a little different, but just on average, moving someone in, you're basically giving them control of $100,000 asset for you. If the average apartment unit across the country is $100,000 to own, then it's basically $100,000 asset that you're giving away without even running anything. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like renting out a Mercedes, $100,000 Mercedes. You typically pay a little bit more attention to that than apartments for some reason. But if you want to learn more, look me up, ironcladunderwriting.com. You can look Frank up. He's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn,
TikTok, all over.
All over. And we'll catch you next time. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share the show. And don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or check us out at our website at ironcladunderwriting.com for more insights and updates. If you have a question, a deal you're analyzing, or a topic you want us to tackle, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your assumptions grounded, your models sharp, and your underwriting ironclad.